On Prime Crime tonight, it's something parents and teenagers face almost every day.
She's got to keep this secret. She's got to keep it hidden from her mom, her dad, all of her friends.
But what one girl did was unthinkable. Was this a tragedy or murder?
I think that she was not being honest. She was either hiding something or outright lying.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime Tonight. This is where we do a deeper dive into the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. Tonight, a high school girl tries to keep a secret, but it ends in death. This is Brooke Skylar Richardson. This girl from Ohio had the story we've heard so many times.
Skylar Richardson, by all accounts, was a good student. She was well-liked at Carlisle High School. She was a cheerleader.
Yet, like so many times, things were not quite what they seemed.
She had some issues. She had been sexually abused by a boy that she was interested in when she was in junior high, and she had been diagnosed by a psychologist with dependent personality disorder, meaning she craves approval and attention from authority figures. She may seem fine on the outside, but on the inside, she's often crumbling because of her emotional state.
Skylar also developed an eating disorder at a very young age, which may have been complicated by her relationship with her mother, Kim.
It almost seemed like Kim Richardson was living vicariously through her daughter. Kim Richardson was telling her daughter, she was kind of jealous of her being at the gym and being able to work out, and she was also cheering her on to lose weight despite having an eating disorder.
In April 2017, at the age of 18, Skylar visits her OBGYN, and he tells her she's about 8 months pregnant. The baby's father, Trey Johnson, a boy she had previously dated. Skylar's reaction to the news?
She said that she was not prepared to deliver a baby. She could not have a baby.
It's never been clear if Skylar in fact knew about her pregnancy prior to that visit. But what she decided to do after would prove to be the biggest mistake of her life. She didn't tell anyone about the baby, including neither Trey nor her parents.
Her mother believed if she ever had a child at this point in her life that it would ruin her life. She wouldn't be able to go to college. She wouldn't get a job. She would have to leave all of that behind and be a full-time mother.
Skylar would go on living her life, and in fact, she even attended prom.
She's fully aware that she's pregnant. She knows that this life is growing within her, but yet she's got to keep this secret. She's got to keep it hidden from her mom, her dad, all of her friends.
Fast forward to July. Skylar returns to her OBGYN's office, but to their shock, Skylar asks for birth control pills, and she doesn't have a newborn baby with her. What Richardson ends up telling her doctor would result in the police now getting involved.
I had the baby and
Okay, hold on a second. When you say you had the baby, where were you?
I was in my bathroom. It just came out when I pushed and it wasn't breathing. It didn't make any noises.
Skylar claims that she began experiencing severe cramps the night of her prom, a possible sign of going into labor. 2 nights later at her home, she says she gave birth to her baby all by herself without waking up her parents or brother. According to Skylar, though, this newborn, whom she named Annabelle, didn't survive.
I put her in my arms, I tried to hold her, and she's breathing. She doesn't have a heartbeat. She's not breathing.
How did you, I know the breathing part you can kind of tell and see. Did you ever hear a cry or a whimper? When you say she didn't have a heartbeat, did you try to check it?
I tried to feel. I
tried to feel in her
hard.
chest.
I didn't mean to push hard. I just felt.
Okay. And were her eyes open or closed?
They were closed.
They were closed.
But Richardson still needed to keep this a secret. What she did next changed everything.
What do you do when you realize that she's not going to make it?
I have to bury her.
This was not well thought out. This was a kind of a hurried, frenzied event where The remains were disposed of in a very shallow location, to mention a deceased person that she's just given birth to. So that makes this all the more ominous.
Investigators are left with a question. Did Skylar Richardson deliver a stillborn?
There is that image of her at prom, and she is pregnant there. And I swear, every time I look at that image, it haunts me because I'm thinking there is a baby there that you cannot fully appreciate. No one could fully appreciate because she was masking it so well. Could she have bound herself so tightly that it compromised the baby's ability to grow appropriately?
Or did she actually plan this out and kill her baby?
I think that she was not being honest. She was either hiding something or outright lying. I always felt that there wasn't something right that she was bringing forth. And I thought that that was extremely obvious, whereas other experts thought the opposite.
Okay, that's okay. I know this is...
Oh, I didn't kill her. I never meant to hurt her.
I understand that. Skylar, again, like I've told you, we don't think you meant to hurt her. We don't think you hurt her.
Am I going to be in trouble?
So, well, I don't know that you're in any trouble.
What's especially puzzling is what Skylar did after the night of the birth.
Skylar's behavior after the birth of this child seems to be anything but normal. She starts going to the gym and working out, running on the treadmill, taking pictures of her stomach and sending text messages to her mom, showing her how she was losing weight and even talking about how she was going to get rid of that belly.
Then there were the internet searches.
I think the only thing I search is how to not have a baby or how to get rid of a baby, but I never did anything.
Okay, well, but see, how to get rid of a baby is kind of,
Sounds really bad now. I'm
that's
sorry.
like how...
Nothing was going to, I didn't try anything.
Everything suggested that she did not intend to ever have that baby. And there was affirmative things that she did to hide her pregnancy. I mean, remember, she went to the prom just right before she wound up giving birth in her home. She never asked for any help, of course, from her family while she was giving birth. She did it all silently while they were right there. And she had done many internet searches. There was so much there that showed that if that baby was born alive, it wasn't going to be alive for very long.
The problem for authorities was Annabelle's autopsy because the body was found in a decomposed state. The coroner did observe fractures to the baby's skull, but it was inconclusive if they occurred before or after death.
When we just think about the fragility, if you will, of a newborn and how susceptible they are to any kind of environmental changes, particularly after death, it makes it very hard to read from a forensic standpoint. At the end of the day, we don't have any soft tissue that's left behind in order to make an assessment as to what kind of trauma the child may or may not have sustained.
At one point during her interview, Skylar's parents enter the room, and we get a further look into the Richardson family.
You should have just told us.
I know.
What did they tell you?
I think they want to know if I killed it myself.
Yeah, you go to jail.
I didn't though.
Skylar's relationship with her father, she was a daddy's little girl. He loved her very much.
I know you're sorry for lying, because...
I was completely honest to them.
But you lied to us.
Her mother loved her very much as well. Kim Richardson, though, had a different type of relationship with her daughter.
There's nothing
You go to
we can
jail.
do.
It's in the papers. It's everywhere. The neighbors have already called me. Krista already called me, and I know she was telling me that they're digging up stuff in her backyard. You're going to be on the news. How do you think Mims and Paps and Bill and Janet will feel?
Please, so support me. I didn't.
Skylar, I am supportive, but I'm just saying.
It was pretty shocking. Her mother was very concerned about what the neighbors were going to think since the police were digging up their backyard, what people were going to say. It was just a very different reaction than the father. He seemed a lot more concerned about his daughter just in general.
Skylar, you're not going home with us.
Honey, don't
You'll
start
never.
that.
Skylar, I'm telling you, it makes me sick. The cute little bag of popcorn you had, you'll never finish.
Honey,
This
stop.
stuff-
Please stop.
Mom. What did I do? I
Do you have any idea how we feel?
I had to deliver a dead baby by myself.
If you could have gotten us, Skylar, I would have helped you so many times. I told you, if you just tell me, I'm always going to be here for you. I've always told you that I love you. How do you think I feel at the thought of losing my baby?
What Skylar didn't know was that an examination of Annabelle's remains was about to reveal a new clue, and she was going to be brought back in for more questioning.
Tell me about the fire.
What fire? I thought it was my fault because I should have got the doctors back in here. I should have told somebody, but I was so scared.
I understand.
Brooke Skylar Richardson was a teenager out of Ohio who told police that she got pregnant, hid this from her family and friends, and then gave birth alone in her home. Now, she first tells police that the baby was born dead, but then something happened. After Skylar's interview with detectives in July 2017, she's free to go. But then 6 days later, they interrogate her again. This time, they say they have new evidence.
Tell me about the fire.
What fire?
Well, there's some evidence to show that there was some burning on her.
Didn't burn her. I promise on anything I didn't burn her. I didn't burn her.
Are you sure?
I swear on anything.
You're sure?
That I'm sure of.
Initially, it appears that the state's forensic anthropologist, Dr. Beth Murray, determined that Annabelle's bones showed signs of burning. While Skylar first denies this, she then seems to give in. Skylar's story of delivering a stillborn then falls apart as she reveals new details she didn't share in her first interview.
I know that somehow you know she was alive like before that, and that's why you're worried you didn't do something that could have helped.
Why did she make a noise?
Make a noise? What kind of noise?
Maybe a little noise, a girl, but I didn't know if it was something else. I saw her arms maybe a little, but moving on. I didn't think she was breathing, and I think I squeezed her too hard.
Okay.
But it was something.
I know. It's okay. It's okay. You can't. It's okay. You were trying.
I think I want to kill her.
Okay. Okay.
I think I killed her. I think I killed her on purpose.
No one said, Skylar, no one believes that.
Just squeezed her.
Skylar,
I loved her.
no one believes that you would do anything to her on purpose. No.
What she is referring to here is something in forensics that we refer to as a compression asphyxia. Direct pressure is being applied where she might clutch this child very, very tight to her chest, and the child's chest can't even begin to rise and fall.
How long would be your closest guess how long she was alive?
I don't know what's going to happen. That is not up to us, okay? I don't know. Do you feel it? You keep saying that. Do you feel like you should be?
I don't think you right.
When Skylar's parents come into the interrogation room this time, the stakes are much different.
I tried to cremate the baby just a little.
You tried to cremate the baby?
Yeah, then I didn't.
We still love you, but this is a horrible mess.
Yeah.
She absolutely has to go. She absolutely has to go to jail now. Yeah.
Richardson was charged with a series of offenses from aggravated murder to child endangerment. Her trial began on September 3rd, 2019, while the prosecution seemingly had strong evidence of planning, motive, lying to police, and even the defendant's own words caught on tape. The cracks in their case began to show.
There can't be a finding of child endangerment or murder for that matter if we don't know that the child was in fact dead. If the child was born stillborn, there can't be murder. In the aggregate, there were a lot of errors that I think took down the quality of the case.
First, that evidence of burning wasn't so concrete as the investigators who interrogated Skylar initially thought. In email exchanges between Dr. Murray and the coroner, we learned she believed the bones may have been charred, and that she felt the prosecution was upset she wasn't more definitive.
With infant skeletal remains, these remains are very, very spongy. When the decomposition process begins, you'll get these kind of blackened or burned manifestations on the surface of the bone that might give it the appearance of having been burned. They might very well have gone with that. They might very well have said, well, yeah, the remains, in fact, had been burned, when there's not enough evidence to kind of shore that up.
It was an error for the prosecution to proceed full tilt ahead when they didn't have that at least hammered out.
The coroner ultimately determined that Annabelle died as a result of homicidal violence, but what she couldn't say was how it happened.
She's actually saying it's a case of homicidal violence, but I can't tell you any more than that. It's speculative on her part at best, because you cannot say that the child was choked to death. You can't say the child was strangled. You can't say that the child was suffocated, because there are no indicators there.
Then there were the interviews. Sure, Skylar said the things she said, but her defense team argued police manipulated her into a false confession. Adding to that, Scott Richardson testified he was never told that the family's conversations in that room were being recorded. He was advised Skylar didn't need a lawyer, and he believed the police lied to them. All issues that have left observers divided.
I thought that they conducted a fair interview, and she said so much that could let a jury determine that she wasn't being credible. I didn't see that there was any level of intense pressure or unlawful, unconstitutional pressure that the police were using during her interviews.
Skylar's first interview with police, she's understandably very scared. I thought the one detective, Lieutenant John Fain, I thought he was really nice to her. He was trying to provide some measure of comfort to a young girl who's gone through something terrible. The second police interview, I think in some ways, was pretty disturbing. The female detective kept reaching over and trying to hold her hand and, trying to lead her down this path to get her to admit that the baby was alive.
Think about how proud Annabelle would be to have you as a mom for being honest about what happened.
Constant prodding, the 17 times of telling her, no, we know you burned the body. And I thought the prodding, was a little much at times, but they had that information at the time. And ultimately that information turned out to be incorrect.
This concept of coercion and an innocent, naive girl was compounded by testimony regarding Skylar's dependent personality disorder and health issues.
I think it had more impact than it should have had. And it's not supposed to be meant to have a jury or a judge feel sorry for the defendant.
With regard to count one, we, the jury in the above captioned case, find the defendant, Brooke Skylar Richardson, not guilty of the offense of aggravated murder.
In the end, after 4 hours of deliberations, the jury acquitted Richardson of the most serious charges, but they did convict her of gross abuse of a corpse.
I was not surprised by the verdict at all. It was going to be very difficult to get an aggravated murder conviction when the medical experts all testified that they could not determine the cause of death because the body was too decomposed.
Did Miss Richardson have overbearing parents? Yes. Did she suffer from an eating disorder? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that you're allowed to kill your baby or bury your baby in your backyard. The jury believed that she improperly disposed of and desecrated the remains of her child. That is a big deal.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would do anything and above that you ask, and I understand. And I just wanted to say how sorry I was. I can sometimes be selfish, but I would like to think that I've become better in the knowledge that I've upset everyone and hurt so many people with what I've done. And I'm forever sorry, and I'm so sorry. I'm really, really sorry, and I understand. And thank you.
Judge Donald Oda had an important decision regarding Richardson's sentence, with the abuse felony carrying up to a year behind bars.
I've always sort of thought of this case, Ms. Richardson, as a story of two little girls, Skylar Richardson and Annabelle Richardson.
Judge Oda didn't sentence Skylar Richardson to prison, but rather 3 years probation.
We saw the judge openly empathizing with her, saying that she reminded him of his daughter. It's bizarre to see the inequity of justice, especially when you're having this sort of young, sympathetic, white woman when we see a lot of other justice delivered to people of color. It just doesn't seem equitable.
Richardson appeared again in Judge Oda's courtroom the following year for her probation hearing.
I suffer a lot in silence, and I do show remorse, and I am very sorry, and I hurt a lot, but I have been not showing it as much.
Nothing really seemed to have changed over the last year or so. She was supposed to be getting treatment for her eating disorder, but she's still painfully thin. She very much seems childlike when you listen to her speak. And it surprised me that she hadn't yet reached out to Tracy Johnson, the maternal grandmother of Annabelle, to offer any type of apologies. It doesn't seem like she's really matured that much since this happened.
Oda ended Richardson's probation 2 years early.
This is a low-level felony. You have no prior criminal history. You are employed. You are going to college. And there is no reason for me to invest the time and resources of my probation department in supervising you.
Skylar Richardson walked out of that courtroom as a free woman, but she is a convicted felon, and she'll never be able to escape what happened.
I think that we as parents owe it to our children to always let them know, no matter what, that we love them, that we care about them, and that no matter how bad anything is, they can always come to us and tell us.
There are those who believe that Skylar Richardson got away with murder and she should be in prison. Then again, there are those who don't see a killer but a troubled young woman. And look, we may never really know how baby Annabelle died, but what we can do is make sure we never forget her or this case, because that's the way to prevent this from happening in the future. That's all we have for you on Prime Crime tonight. Leave us your comments on the Brooke Skylar Richardson case on Twitter or Facebook with the hashtag PrimeCrimeTonight. As always, thank you for joining us, and until next time, be safe.